What's going on, everybody? Welcome. Episode number 236. Welcome to another episode. Cristiano Oliveira is here with me. Cristiano, what's happening?
What's going on, everybody?
And George Duarte, you may also know him as Negative George. What's happening? It's been a while.
It's been a while, but everything's doing well. Everything's going well. Thank you, and I'm glad to fill out the Canadian quota on the Benfica podcast.
That's right. You're like that guy in the B team that we call up every once in a while.
That's right.
So anyway, on tonight's agenda, we will look back at the Passos Ferreira game. We'll also look ahead at what's left for both Benfica and Porto, and that's all we got. So it's going to be a whole 10 minutes of conversation. So if you got stuff to do after the pod, you're going to get to do it early. If it's Shishikama, even better. Anyway, so let's get into this. Passos Ferreira. Benfica traveled up north to the Mata Real to play Passos Ferreira. Usually a very complicated and difficult game because of the nature of the pitch. It's a small pitch, as we know. Passos Ferreira has just inaugurated one of their stands, so 9,000 people is now the capacity at the Mata Real, and all 9,000 seats occupied. For the majority, it was Benfica fans. So let's get into this game. Ederson was in goal. Semedo, Luizão, Lindelof, and lh0 across the back. Samaris and Pizza in the middle. Salvio, Zivkovic on the wings. Jonas behind Mitroglou. Nothing new. We've seen this before. I just don't understand why Salvio keeps playing, because he does seem like he's cold. He's been very cold. And the Pedro from the from the Three Tugas podcast would argue with me. He thinks that Salvio is very important to this team, but I don't think so. Negative. It's been a while, man. So let's get your thoughts on the current moment, or what you have been seeing in the past month or so from Benfica.
Well, it hasn't been good. It has been good, and to be honest with you, I think out of the past few games, whether it was Feirense or Bolonense, I actually thought that the Passos game this weekend may have been the one we played the best, at least the one we dominated the most. But we just, in terms of this game on the weekend, we just didn't shoot enough or create enough chances. But that seems to be something that we've been experiencing for a while. Lots of somewhat control the ball, but producing very few opportunities. I do have to go against something that my man there, Cristiano, comes up with, says quite often, which is the Benfica plays in Portuguese leagues full of mancos. I have to admit that I've been somewhat impressed with the smaller sides this year, in that they seem to be playing a lot less, hoof and run and play 11 guys in the box, which is what Passos did for at least the first half on the weekend. When I was watching Benfica against Feirense and against Bolonense, they were able to push the ball out from their attack and move the ball forward. And the problem is that we can't stop. We can't really stop them. I don't know if it's just a question of Feja not being there, but I haven't been impressed with the play as of late. We're not producing enough offense. We're giving up too many opportunities, sometimes 3-on-3s. 2-on-3s is just a little bit too willy-nilly for me on the defensive end. But we have been winning, and up until this weekend, and that's the problem. They say if it's not broke, don't fix it. You don't change a winning lineup. Although we haven't been playing well or that well, we've been winning, but it bit us in the butt this weekend.
Negative. This Passos team still a bunch of mancos sprinkled in with a couple of decent players. The difference is that all these mancos packed in are very tough to penetrate, and that's exactly
Absolutely.
what they did. They had 11 guys behind the midfield line for 85% of the game, and so I don't care whether they're mancos or not. That's going to be very tough for Benfica to break in, and that was the difference in this game. And yes, they had their, they did try to come out and play football on a couple of occasions, but for the most part, it was a game that they just sat back. They kept their sectors very close. They kept the passing lanes very tight, and they clogged them all up, and it was tough for Benfica to get their opportunities.
Absolutely. I think that Passos played a much more defensive game against Benfica than many of their opponents have this year. I don't remember seeing a team defend as much as Passos did this past weekend, and it worked because Benfica they couldn't penetrate, and then the dang passes they do 1-2s in the box sometimes, or just give it a hammer. lh0 took that shot off the crossbar or the post, excuse me. It didn't go in, but just take a shot every once in a while. And I think I read yesterday they had 4 shots on net. And if that's true, that's just not enough.
And I mean, look, kudos to them. AJ Seabra Supermarket had a phenomenal coaching strategy for this game. Alfredo, don't get the joke. His name's Seabra. I guess you didn't get the joke. It was corny. But yeah, Seabra's had a phenomenal defensive, how do I put it, system coming into this game, an idea, and they implemented it. They played well, and kudos to them. But as a Benfica fan and as someone that talks about Benfica week in, week out, they did give me a little bit more of that ball control that I so much desire. But fact of the matter is that the most dangerous play that Benfica created in the full 90 minutes, well, really, yeah, in the full 90 minutes, because Jonas in the 95th, that's excluding the 90 minutes, but it was off of lh0's foot with that fantastic shot off the post, and then a bunch of gibberish in between, no opportunities. I don't recall the goalie having to make one tough save. And so that's basically what happened this week, and got a little bit what I wanted without the opportunities. But sometimes you have to give the opposition credit. And in this point, in this game, I'm a guy that comes here week in, week out, and I rip Benfica because they don't play well. I really, listen, I could point a finger here and there at a couple miscues here and there, but nothing Benfica could do. Benfica played well enough to win the game, just didn't create the chances.
Yeah, that's the big thing, Cristiano. And I don't want to take anything from Passos, because Passos did play their game. Their game plan was to frustrate Benfica, to stay behind the ball, to keep guys behind the ball in a small pitch, give Benfica the wings, which is not a lot of room. And to their credit, there wasn't a lot of anti-jogo by them. Usually we see these teams and we see a lot of anti-jogo. Now, for me, the problem is that, Benfica had 68% of the possession overall for the whole game against 32% from Passos. But I think that usually Benfica, even when Benfica has trouble penetrating on combinations, there's an individual effort or an individual player that comes out and it changes things up. And right now, Benfica doesn't have that individual talent that can make the difference. The team did very little to create opportunities, and I agree with Negative. More shots should have been taken, because with that many legs in front of goal, you take a shot, you get a deflection, you could score a goal. So
yeah, but Alfredo, you're right. But Alfredo, go back and watch the game, and I just did a couple minutes ago, right? Because I had to do this pod. Because if I did, I would not watch this game. You gotta give credit to Passos. They did not let Benfica get close enough to the area where they could take those shots that you're talking about. That therefore you get the deflections. They did a great job of keeping Benfica away. And now the best way to deal with the pack in the box and clog of the field is to spread it out wide and get the ball into the middle. And they tried that, but look, Zivkovic had a couple of good balls and nobody got to the end of them. Salvio is a guy that's been very, very frustrating to watch over the last couple of months, if not all season, with the exception of a few plays here and there. And so that's what we got in this game. I mean, they played well enough, didn't take their chances, didn't really create enough. They need a true playmaker. Pizzi plays well at times. Obviously, you guys know I criticize him, but there's times where he plays well. This was one of these games where he was okay, but there was nobody with magic in the middle to penetrate that defense, to get through the ball and get someone, spring one, 1-2, a quick 1-2. There was nobody there, and that's what Benfica severely lacks. I love Jonas, but Jonas is the type of guy that he needs to get the ball at his feet up top. He's not a guy that's going to come back and get it and give it to others as well. So that's what Benfica is lacking, man. And it's just frustrating to watch at times. But in this case, Passos did well enough to get the point.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Benfica ends the game 0-0, and we're thinking Porto's playing afterwards at home. Doesn't look like it's going to be a difficult game for them. They're going to pass us. And I got to be honest, after that game finished, I was in a crappy mood. After a couple hours of feeling down on myself, I told myself that I was going to come on a pod with a positive message for all our listeners, for all the Benfiquistas that listen to us, that I wasn't going to really turn this into a negative vibe, that I was going to turn it into a positive vibe. And look, that was my intent. And that was even before the Porto game. Then Porto plays, and again, ties João Carvalho, which was a player that was loaned out by Benfica to Setúbal as a result of Sporting taking away Ryan Gold. I don't can't even say his name. Ryan
Ryan
Gold
Gold and Gerald.
and Geraldes. Coceiro, who is a Sportingista at heart, asked for João Carvalho. And his credit, he had been watching João Carvalho from the beginning of the season, and he had asked for João Carvalho. But his request for João Carvalho, since Ryan Gold had left, became more important. So here it is, João Carvalho, who is an outstanding player in the B team, who is a guy that looked in the B team ready to make the jump, went and played, got that magnificent play, was able to beat Casillas. Game finishes 1-1. Porto complains about 56 penalties that weren't called against them. And look, it was all good. After the Porto game, I think the Benfiquista Nation seemed a little relieved from what I could gather and from the pulse of Twitter and the internet. But this is a game that if we win, and I don't know if we win, the Porto gets the same result or not. But if we win, all of a sudden we're 4 points clear going into the Clásico, and we're clearly in a driver's seat. Now we have to play a very important game at Estádio da Luz against Porto, which to me is not the game of the championship, but to me is the game of the season for Benfica, really.
Yeah, this has been an interesting season in that there have been 4 or 5 times where I thought, like before the Marítimo game when Benfica lost, I remember saying if Benfica wins this week, the title's done. They lose. There have been several times where I thought if Porto, at the time Sporting was still in, I go, if Porto loses this week or Sporting loses this week, it's done. Like when Porto beat Braga with a last-minute goal, I go, if Porto loses this week, the title's done. Boom. They end up pulling it out. And after the draw this weekend for Benfica, I was really worried. I was like, if Porto wins tomorrow, we're going to have a really hard time because you still got to play Porto and Sporting. And Porto goes and draws. I think this just shows that the title's going down to the end. Even if we beat Porto, not even if, after we beat Porto in 2 weeks, there's still the Sporting game, which anything can happen. It's going to go down to the wire, and anybody can take it still.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be this game. But Benfica, we know, and we've been saying here that Benfica hasn't been playing well. That they're like a stuttering car running out of gas, crawling to the finish line. But the opportunity now presents for Benfica to show their mettle, to show their class, and to really prove who's the better team. And they got the chance now against Porto at Estádio da Luz. So
I mean, Alfredo, we listen. I know you don't want to turn this into a negative, vibe here, but and I'll just say something real quick because I don't want to go that road as well. But I mean, this to me shouldn't even come down to this game. And you guys are 100% correct. This is not the game of the time. I mean, still have Sporting and Sporting. That's their season for them right now. The fact that they'll get a chance to either to knock Benfica off that pedestal, they're gonna go all in, but. This is a very important game coming up this week. I mean, next weekend, I should say, because you have the international break in between. But, guys, I mean, Benfica was 6-7 points ahead of Porto. This shouldn't even be where it's at right now.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, we're playing in a Portuguese league against, like I say all the time, a bunch of mancos. This shouldn't have even come to this point. The fact of the matter is that Benfica haven't played well. They've been getting by 1-0s and, and a lucky goal here and a lucky goal there. And it is what it is because at the end of the day, 3 points is 3 points and it adds up to 80 or 85, whatever it is that you need to clinch the title. And I know they're all very important in the end, but I mean, Benfica's just not playing well over the last 2.5 months. Since, I guess, the turn of the new year. It hasn't been the same team. And in my mind, it shouldn't have come to this. And Benfica absolutely have all the pressure on them to win this game at home come April 1st, Dia dos Mentirosos. They absolutely need to win that game. I don't want Rui Vitória to go out there and play for a draw. I don't want to see none of these, André Almeida's playing striker and Jonas playing center back. No, I don't want to see none of this. I want to see the strongest lineup. And if they're all healthy, obviously, Feja's a big cog in this team, and hopefully he'll be available for that game. But I want Benfica to go out there and show Porto and show the Portuguese soccer fans and the Benfica, this is our stadium, this is our home, and this is how we play. I don't want to see Benfica with their tail between their legs and just sitting back and holding up the score. No, I don't want to see that. Benfica have to win this game, okay, because it'll get nasty. Okay, we're talking about six or seven, if I'm not mistaken, 7-point lead at some point. And last year, we took so much joy in catching up and making up that 7-point lead, 8-point lead on Sporting. And now this year, it's if we don't win this game, it'll happen to us. So we need to be very careful, and we have to win this game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this team compared to last year's team, I mean, you look at the run that last year's team went on, and there was a lot better football being played last year than it is this year.
Yeah, last year though, for whatever reason, we seem to have more players playing great than this year. Like last year, we had Lindelof was in a great form. Sanchez, no, he's gone now, but he was playing at a really high level. And Jonas was playing off the charts.
And Nico wasn't great, but Nico's still there. He's still an outlet. Another guy that could create, another guy that took a lot of attention and freed up a lot of space for the Jonases and everyone else on the field.
Absolutely. And if you look this year, no, Jonas isn't playing like he was last year. The defense isn't playing, although they didn't give up goals this weekend. They're not playing to the level they played at last year. Ederson is the one guy who's really excelled, and that's almost one of the problems when your goalie has been your most impressive player. I agree that Benfica has not played well in a while. I think probably since the 2 games against Guimarães back to back for the league and the League Cup. I think when they won those 2 games, lots of goals, I thought, wow, who knows what can happen this year? And from then on, I don't know what, it went downhill. And like I said, no one is shining. So we have, like, if you look at the Salvio situation, you're right. Many people think Salvio should be playing less. Some people think he should be playing. The problem is there's no obvious player to replace him, because none of the wingers, although they're all good, none of them have come in and played consistently well when given the opportunity. Maybe Rui Vitória should just stick with a new guy for a couple of games and just give him 90 minutes. But with 8, 9, 10 games left in the season, it's a little risky to do that now.
Well, negative. There's a guy that's been consistent all year long, and he's been better this year than he was last year, and also because he was hurt last year, and that Almeida took his spine. That's Smith. Smith has been fantastic.
Yes.
Smith is another guy. Yeah, he's another guy. But I agree with you on everything else. I mean, the fact that your goalie is the standout. I mean, it's great. It says a lot about him, but it also says a lot about your defense.
Yeah.
No Grimaldo last year. We struggled at the end of the season. We got Grimaldo. Popsicle a little bit in there, and then Almeida really took the mantle over for Smithu. But this year, you're right, man, there hasn't been, the guys aren't playing at that same consistent level, and there aren't as many options, as many outlets as there were last year. And we did struggle, guys. Look, let's clarify this. Let's just mention it. A gente barrasca. We made it to the finish line last year on our knees. All right. Yeah. The last month, the team was really struggling, but the thing was, they believed and they fought, and I think they really had something to dig in. The whole JJ controversy, they wanted to dig in, and they're like, we're gonna get this, and they got it. So it wasn't all roses at the end of the year as well last year.
No, and this is where my my negative George persona is going to come out a little bit. This game this weekend reminded me a lot of the Boavista game last year late in the season. The difference was that last year, Jonas scores in the 94th minute or whatever it was, and this year he didn't. Let's hope that this isn't a sign of what's to come.
Yeah, that's a great point. We now break for international duty. 10 Benfica players called out to their national teams, and I'll give you the list. Ederson, Jimenez, Carrillo, Semedo, Pizzi, Eliseu, Lindelof, Zivkovic, Jovic, and Pedro Pereira for Portuguese U20 team. Cristiano, there was an argument that you had with Steve Santos last week about Pizzi not going to the national team, but here it is.
Yeah, I was actually waiting for you to finish mentioning. I could have sworn I counted 11, but I guess 10 internationals. And I was going to tip my cap to Steve. He did say that Pizzi was going to get called up, but you know what? In the end, my boy lh0 also went. So Steve, I mean, doesn't say much. If lh0 gets called up and Pizzi gets called up, it's like, okay, like, comprehends? I don't think lh0 belongs on this team. I mean, I just don't. Look, I mess around with the guy. I love digging at him. I love digging at you guys that come on here and criticize him. But I mean, come on, lh0 at this point still getting called up for the national team. I mean, that's not to be tooting your horn about.
I have to admit, when I was, if you look back to the '90s when Portugal wouldn't really make these competitions, every qualifying game for Portugal was super exciting. Now with the increased, enlarged fields, more teams qualifying, Portugal consistently there. These qualifiers, they interest me less and less each time. And then when you put a qualifier, not just the luck of the draw, the week before a Benfica Porto, I wish the Benfica players just said, listen, I'm not going to the national team.
Well, but you know what, George? It benefits Benfica
All the
in this
countries.
instance. It benefits Benfica because the Porto guys, they're all playing on the 28th, I believe. They're playing on Wednesday. A majority of those guys with the South American competitions, with the Mexico, whatever.
Okay.
And so they're only going to have like 3 days of rest. So it's in this instance, it's actually going to benefit Benfica more than it's going to benefit Porto.
But the one negative aspect for us, for Benfica, is that the Benfica players that are going are unlikely to start or play in the real qualifier, which is on Saturday. They're more likely to play on the friendly, which I believe is on the Tuesday.
Yeah, in Marítimo Stadium,
and that's just
in Madeira. Yeah, they're gonna
exactly, and that's where it's like, man, I wish they were starters and give them a little bit of an extra.
Smith might be the only guy to get some burn on Saturday. Smith,
yes.
He might get that.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll just have to hope that none of those 10 guys come back hurt from the national team, especially from their national teams, especially from the track record that we've had all season with injuries. So let's hope that Ederson comes back in one piece. Semedo, if you recall, last year, his last appearance for the national team was last year, and he came back with an injury. And as that turned out,
it was also his first. Alfredo's first.
Yeah. And Cristiano, I remember you arguing about at that time why is Semedo getting called up, and he got called up. There was an injury, and he kind of lost the rest of the season. Really, we lost Semedo for the rest of the season because Almeida then stepped in and he played, and we lost the talents of Semedo.
Well, which in the end might have been a good thing, because had he played at this level last year, he'd most likely be gone right now. We wouldn't have him. So, I mean, it could have worked both ways. But last year, I thought it was way, way, way premature to get to call the kid up to the national. It was only after like 7 or 8 games of his Benfica career, of his professional Division I career. You're calling the kid up. I think Portugal has a tendency of doing that. Anyone that shows any type of promise, they call him up right away. And like George said, nowadays, these games don't mean much. Nowadays, you're going to get a medal anyway, because everybody gets to join these tournaments now if you have, 11 fit players. So it's like, take your time. Let's see what we got. Play the other guys, the veterans that have been around. Smith will get plenty of his opportunities, and it actually backfired for him in his career. But for Benfica, it might have been a blessing in disguise, because if he played at this level, he would have been gone too.
Yeah, that's right. So, no game this weekend, as I mentioned, international duty. Let's look at what's left for both Benfica and Porto. 8 games left, and I guess I'll run you through the fixtures as they happen. So the next fixture, obviously, Benfica will play Porto at Estádio da Luz. Then Benfica will travel to Moreirense while Porto is at home with Belenenses. Then Benfica is at home with Marítimo. Porto goes to Braga to play Braga. Then Benfica goes to Sporting on that weekend. Porto hosts Feirense at home. Then Benfica receives Estoril at home. Porto travels to Chaves to play Chaves. Benfica goes to Rio Ave. On that same fixture, Porto travels to the Madeira Island to play Marítimo. Then both teams are at home. Benfica's at home with Guimarães, and Porto's at home with Paços Ferreira. And the season finale, Benfica at Boa Vista, Porto at Moreirense. So, I mean, looking at the schedule, having to play Porto, having to play Sporting, and traveling to Rio Ave, and then you still have Guimarães. I mean, it's going to be a very difficult task for Benfica. On Porto's side, Benfica obviously then traveling to the Pedreira, at Chaves, at Marítimo in consecutive games. And then Paços Ferreira at home. I don't think that's going to be too hard of a game. And then at Moreirense in the season curtain call, which, if you recall, Moreirense has the capability of playing well, but they just got rid of Inácio. So we'll just have to see. Benfica also travels to Moreirense after the Porto game, so we'll have to see. But Benfica's harder calendar than Porto for the last 8 games. But I think that Porto is not going to have a cakewalk either.
No, I think both teams have very tough schedules. Benfica, I believe, has the advantage of having 4 home games out of their last 8. Porto only has 3 home games out of their last 8. Porto having to go to Chaves, Marítimo, and Braga, and Benfica. Those are 4 really tough matches. Now, granted, like you said, we have to go to Sporting, and that's why I could see potentially the league leads flipping each week. It's totally possible because I could see Benfica dropping points to half those teams you mentioned, and Porto the same thing.
Yeah, you're right. But after this game coming up on the first, the team that drops points, they got it. They can't drop any more points after that. I mean, it's got to be. It's going to be. I just have a feeling it's going to be one of those runs that we saw last year, where Benfica and Sporting both I believe won their last 8 games of the season. No one dropped a point, and it was like, yo, shot for shot, shot for shot. And at the end of the day, the team that had the 2-point lead stayed ahead just because they won that game at the Alvalade, and I think it's going to be the same thing this season. Whoever drops the points at Benfica Stadium, at Estádio da Luz on the first, they're going to be in deep trouble. And I hope that's not Benfica.
Yeah, I have to agree.
And if speaking of that game, it was something that I've been I just remembered. I know Cristiano likes seeing the Benfica best 11 no matter what on the field. Usually when Benfica plays these bigger teams, including Porto and Sporting, we see Vitória has decided to add an Almeida or add a third guy in the midfield, which changes the Benfica system to try to combat the other team's tactics. Here's my question. Generally, when my question for Cristiano, see what he would do. Generally, when Benfica plays these games, the Porto and the Sporting, we're outnumbered in the midfield, and then we spend half of the game chasing the ball, because when you have Pizzi and Feza playing against the Nilu, Oliver, and André, for example, when they're outnumbered 3-2, if they're always chasing the ball, you may as well have zero midfield. So that's why I think it makes sense to reinforce the midfield. Now, the problem is we may not have the best depth in that position, but that's why I think Vitória often puts a third man in to even out the midfield battle.
It is.
Our third guy may not be as good as the other team's third guy.
I disagree.
Then we're chasing the whole time.
Okay, so to answer your question, first of all, you're right. Did I say I want the best players in there, right? You're right in that statement. But you're wrong when it's every game. No, I want the best players out there when it's the Borussia Dortmunds of the world, the Napolis of the world, the Sportings, the Portos. That's when I want my strongest 11, because I don't want to get slapped around by these guys. But now when we're playing, the Feirenses, the Chaves, the Rio Aves, the Paços Ferreira, I don't mind him going in and giving other guys a chance, because I understand that throughout a 30-game season, they're going to have to rotate guys. But in those games, if everyone is healthy, I want my strongest lineup in there. Now, to answer your second question, as far as putting in a third guy in there, it's obviously that's why they're doing it, because they're going to be dominated. They're always going to be, mismatches in the midfield when the opposition has the ball and you're defending, especially if you're out of position. But in my opinion, when you have guys like André Almeida, even Samaris, and those are the guys that you're turning to, and you taking off a Jonas, to me, it's a huge gap. And that's the problem I have. If you're throwing, if you're putting in Feja and you're putting in Renato Sanchez, that's fine. I'm cool with it. But now when you're bringing in those guys and you're taking guys that to me are difference makers, okay, that's where I have a problem, because you're going to have to drop one of those guys. Yeah. And we've seen an instance where it's Jonas.
Yeah,
right. I don't completely disagree with you, because if Benfica is being outnumbered in the midfield, that means we have the numerical advantage elsewhere. And if our best 11 on the field, we have to take advantage of our numerical advantage, wherever that is on the field, better than Porto would, or Sporting would, or our opponents would, with their numerical advantage in the middle.
Yeah.
But George, here's my question. I'm sorry, Alfred, just to put this to bed. George, here's my question in reverse to you, right? Why shouldn't Benfica have their best 11 out there? Why in hell is it that Benfica always has to be the one to concede? You understand what I'm trying to say? Porto,
absolutely.
They don't. Porto says, "I'm up. Look, it is what it is. These are my best guys." Sport, I'm gonna go in there and slap you with my best guys. Benfica, I'm conceding. You understand? When you're in a heavyweight boxing match, right? The guy doesn't only train uppercuts. He's gonna have to train the straight jab and the hook. He doesn't just come into the game with one option. And that's my point. Why does Benfica have to concede?
Yeah, I think that's the point that I was going to make, Cristiano, is that bringing in that third man in the midfield, almost I interpret that as a defensive approach. It's not really to improve the team's offense or the team's production or the team's play. Is to defend against and as like Cristiano's saying, we're conceding. It's to defending against the team. It's respecting too much of a team at Stadio de Luz.
You're showing fear from the get-go. You're right then and there. You're admitting that your team at your strongest point, because it is your system. It is the system that you came in, that you configured, and that's what you play 95% of the other time. It's your preferred system when you're 4-4-2, whatever, you're 4-3-3, you're 1-9, whatever it is, whatever your system is. If you're changing that, that means that you yourself don't even believe in your own system at the end of the day. And you're conceding. What message is that sending to the team? Like, snap, we have to change our way because, obviously our best ain't good enough for this team.
Yeah.
You're admitting
this is where I think Rui Vitória could use some tactics that he used last year. Because I remember it's on several occasions last year when Sanchez and Fejsa would be in the middle, he'd have Pizzi on the right, but Pizzi had played so much time in the middle, he would often cut into the middle when necessary to help that midfield battle. And then when he wasn't necessary, he could go to the flank and open up. The problem is that this year there's no Sanchez.
You don't have a guy. You don't have a guy that plays on an outside. That's an interior guy. That's what you had with Pizzi.
But it's not just that. It's not just that. Renato is a trator auténtico, yo. You know what I mean? Renato made up a lot of ground. Pizzi doesn't do that. Yeah, Renato could run up and down the field for 90 minutes where it's a little bit different. But yeah, I agree. I mean, guys have to be responsible defensively. You know what I mean? If one guy's pinching, if you see Nelson Smith making a run on the outside and I'm Salvio and I give him the ball, I can't go gung-ho into the box because that means that now, if the team shifts over, Luizão and everybody in the center and the defensive center mid drops back, and the team just rotates. That's fine. But that's something that you have to practice. You have to practice those rotations in practice constantly over and over and over. And I don't know if they're doing that, but people have to be responsible for their positions, game in, game out. That's just what it is.
My fellow Canadian RoboCop, Fernando Aguiar. He'd be great help in there.
All right, let's get into some Twitter questions. And the first one comes from
you paid him to shout him out, right?
The first one comes from Lino Fernandes, who is Neil's brother. And this one's for Negative George. Taça de Portugal or Raptors conference final appearance? Which one would you prefer?
It's got to be Taça de Portugal. Benfica's 1 and 2 in my heart.
That's right.
No questions there.
What else we got here? Mo says football is about tactics and passion. Right now, who is on a more negative coming off their ties, Benfica or Porto? Question for Negative George.
Oh, I think it's definitely Porto because they had the lead in their hand and they let it go, while Benfica had they saw the bottom and all of a sudden they were given a second chance. So I think Benfica is, at least if they feel anything like me, they're feeling much better than any Porto player.
I don't disagree with you, George, but I think you're right in that answer. But at the same time, I think you're half wrong, if it makes sense.
Yep.
Because I think Porto, they haven't lost a game in 15, 17. I mean, they haven't lost a game since last year. I mean, so they're still on that tremendous run. Yeah, you're right. They could have taken advantage and taken the lead, and I'm pretty sure that was devastating to them. But I don't know if they're on the negative. I mean, Benfica is the team that hasn't played well. Porto has played well. And so that's why I'm saying, it's a little give and take on both sides.
Yeah, I think that as far as the mental impact, I think it was bigger on Porto. But as Cristiano mentions, they're on a run, and it's not like they lost the game. Here's one, Sergio Jaforst. In the last 4 weeks of 2015-2016, Benfica was running on pure fumes. Those Rio Ave, Marítimo, and Académica wins were pure Jenga. Yeah, that's where the individual quality made a difference. Here's one from Eliseu de Men. Are you guys at all nervous of Semedo or Pizzi potentially getting injured with the Portuguese national team?
Semedo, yeah, Pizzi, don't worry about it. He's gonna be nice and warm on the bench. Don't worry about it, guys.
I'm afraid of them walking to the supermarket. They should do nothing but sit on the couch or just stay at
themselves, right? In that what is that pop? That bubble wrap, whatever. The stuff that you ship stuff away, the glass. They wrapped themselves in that.
Was it? It was Jonas and Julio Cesar that rode in a car at Dortmund instead of the team bus. They should be driving in like tanks.
An armored
Keep
car.
these guys safe.
Jafust agrees with you, Cristiano, that we always bow to them, meaning Futebol Clube Porto and Sporting. Name the last time we dominated Futebol Clube Porto and Sporting. And he mentions Futebol Clube Porto, the Eusebio game. I agree on that. And Sporting, the roof game. I don't recall that roof game. Yeah, we had some problems with the roof game. Wasn't that the
we had problems. We had problems. Right, the roof was falling apart. That was definitely problems.
And then they replayed the game the next day, if I recall correctly. Yeah. So
well, against Sporting, we dominated them every time.
JJ
we played them when Jorge Jesus was our coach. Porto, other than the Eusebio game, we've never dominated them. Not since we have, but not that I can.
The Eusebio game,
not that I can remember.
The one that André Gomes scored, was that the Eusebio? No, that wasn't the Eusebio.
No, that was Taça de Portugal.
Okay, so they beat them 3-1, so that was pretty sound. I mean, I don't recall when that was. So
that was a Taça game.
Yeah. By the way, that is like the greatest goal. Ever scored.
No, the greatest goal is the one when Benfica tick tack 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 up the field against Sporting, and then Taquara, pow, up. Yeah, that was Ginga. That was pure magic.
Yeah, if you can watch that with the Portuguese relato, the guys like, this isn't isto não é balé.
What's his name? Nuno Luz, whatever his name is. That dude's
it's fantastic. It's the
Gaetan play with the finish by Lima, right?
Yeah, by Lima. Yeah.
No, the one I'm talking about was the other one. But
which one are you talking about?
It was against Sporting. Benfica got the ball from midfield, and they just put on a ballerina show and Gaetan. I'm pretty sure it was.
But Lima scores it.
Was it Lima?
Lima scores on a side scissor kick.
Yeah. I guess I'm just so used to. No, I'm not talking about that one. See, I'm not talking about that.
It's a different one.
A different one that Cardozo scored. See, the thing is, Cardozo scored so many against them. It's hard to pick them all out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go old school. João Pinto goal when they won 6-3 in 93, 94.
Scored 3.
That's the greatest goal.
That's the greatest. Which one? The one where he slips?
The first one.
The upper 90.
No, the one where he hammers it top corner from outside the box.
Okay.
That's decades ago, man.
That's beautiful.
Crown Leon says, boys, relax. Estrelinha de campeão, remember. Yeah, I mean, if there was a Estrelinha, we did see it this week.
Yep.
He also says, versus Porto, I'd have a triangle midfield, faces Samaris and Pizzi. Again, this goes back to the point we were making. I think that we respect these teams too much. You know, why can't we stay loyal to the system we have been playing, especially playing at home? There's no way we should be. I mean, yes, we should respect Porto, but there's no way we should be changing the system that we've been comfortable with and that we've played all season to accommodate that game. I mean, I can understand if you have a 4-point lead, or a 5-point lead, and you're playing Porto, and your biggest thing is not to give up those 3 points. But when you're 1 point, you want to make sure you get that win, that especially at home in front of your fans, what it looks like is going to be a packed house at Stadio de Luz. I think that you got to come out and you got to play your typical game for me.
I don't disagree. If Porto has 3 guys in the middle, then that means the flanks, the wings are going to be somewhat open. Strongest players or most creative players. Those guys that game, they got to dominate. They got to beat it, win the one-on-one battles. And then once that open corridor opens, once that autostrada hopefully will open up on the wings, the midfield will have to stretch out wide, and that'll create the space in the middle for us.
All you got to do is tell Jonas, drop back a little bit more. Don't play your customary position. Just come into the middle a little bit more. Tell Pizzi to back up also. Clog it up a little bit. And now you got 2 different outlets to get the ball out into the wings. I mean, simple. Soccer 101.
Yeah. Francisco Marcelino says, if João Carvalho joins the team next season, will Horta lose space and perhaps stagnate in his so far promising evolution? I think it's too early for João Carvalho. Come on, man.
I don't know. I think Carvalho will make the jump. I believe he'll make the jump, dude.
Yeah, but he's a talented player, but he's still got some phases that he needs to go through.
Not saying any different, but if you go according to what Vitória and Luis Vieira want to do, which is promote kids, at least 1 kid every year, right? He's the next one in line. I think it's him or Zagolus. Yeah. It's between one of them, and this is a position that we we severely lack. So, I mean, he's going to get his shot, and whoever asked that question might be just right. Come to training camp, it's going to be a battle between him and Horta. Whichever one of them comes out of it was going to get the playing time. The other one's most likely going to pack his bags and go out on loan somewhere because you can't have both. You're not going to be able to have both on the team.
Francisco, I think that at this point, Horta has more maturity than João Carvalho is. João Carvalho still has a couple steps in his evolution.
Bro, the guy Horta played 20 minutes in the last 8 months. I don't know what everybody's in love with.
But dude, he was also playing at a good level for Vitória de Setúbal last year.
So you guys touched on this a while back. Horta's been healthy for a while. I don't know if Vitória just doesn't like him. Like, I don't mean personally. He just doesn't like his style. I just expected he'd have more opportunities than he's had. And if it is the case that Vitória doesn't like his style, then it would make sense that he leaves anyways.
I mean, if you think about the guy that he was replacing, Pizzi, and you look at it that way, I mean, Pizzi's got that midfield locked in. I don't know how else Horta is going to get minutes.
I think Horta is a nice player, but the problem with Horta is this, guys. From what I see, right? He doesn't do anything tremendously well. Do you understand what I'm saying? He's not great attacking. He's not great defensively. He is a very good possession midfielder. And he's not an attacking center mid. He's not a defensive center mid. He's a center mid. And Benfica doesn't play that center mid. We play with two guys in the middle. One's attacking, one's defensive. So he's lost in the shuffle. That's what I think his problem is.
I think Horta for me would make more sense in a midfield than putting in Almeida.
Because of possession, but Almeida is a guy that's going to win you a lot more. But see,
he's more defensive.
Well, exactly, and if you're going to make that change, negative, right? If he thought he's indeed going to put Samaris alongside Feja or Almeida, or whatever, you're doing that because you want to control the midfield a little bit more. You feel that you're going to be, needing to win balls back a lot more.
Yeah.
So you're not going to put in Horta for that. You understand what I'm saying? So that's it defeats the purpose.
Yeah. Francisco Marcelino is asking, can you please make an 11 with the best players from the three grandes? I'll give you my 11, Francisco. Ederson, Semedo, Luizão, Lindelof, Eliseu, Samaris, Orfeisa, Pizzi. That's my best 11 would be Benfica's 11 because at this point you got to trust your team is the best out there. And besides, I don't watch enough Sporting games or Porto games to really give you my honest opinion. I'm pretty sure that if Steve was here, he could probably break it down for you.
Spoken like a true Benfica podcast host.
Hey, at this point, look, there's 8 games left. There's a very important game on the horizon. Everybody needs to concentrate their energy, their positive energy, and channel that to the team. Channel that positivity. We got to be positive. We all are aware of what's going on with the team, the difficulties that the team has had. But at this point, it's time to crest that red wave and let it roll to the shore.
Can I take a shot with all that said? Can I take a shot, though?
Sure.
Ederson, Semedo, Lindelof, the Brazilian, what's his name? Felipe something at Porto with the beard. What's his name?
Yeah, Felipe.
I think okay, Felipe, Grimaldo, Danilo, Adrian Silva, Gelson. I'm gonna put Zivkovic, Jonas, and I'm gonna give it to the Silva, the striker, André Silva.
Yeah.
If it's the 11 from this year, you can't include Jonas. He hasn't played enough or well enough.
Well, that's fair. If it's this year's, then Jonas is not in there, and then you can make the case also for Adrian Silva, whatever, because he's been injured. But I'm just talking about best players.
I was gonna give the same 11 that Alfredo gave, so I'm not gonna bother with anybody else.
Yeah. Here's one for you, Cristiano. Who do you guys consider best, Mitroglou or Das Bost?
I'd actually, and again, I'm being totally, non-biased here. Okay, I would take Mitroglou. I think he's a little bit better outside the box. I think Bas Dost is a fantastic finisher, but he's slower, and he's the type of guy he can't play outside the box. Not that Mitroglou could, but he could do it a little bit better. And so for that reason, and for that reason alone, I give it to Mitroglou.
Yeah, I agree. Mitroglou has a little extra skill. Just look at that. No, it was a while back, but look at that Deke when he scored against Braga, where he like purposely hit it off his shin and off the defenseman's shin. That was beautiful.
Purposely, right?
He did that on
Purposely.
purpose.
Yeah.
He did that on purpose.
All right, guys.
People think that he didn't know what was going on. He did that on purpose.
That's all I got. I don't know if you guys wanted to add anything else. We'll wrap this thing up.
We have Sergio Jafos. Lima scored. Going back to that goal, we're confused. Lima scored the goal. The one that you guys were talking about. The game I'm talking about was the 4-3. Tasli Cardoso scored a hat trick.
Yep.
There's a couple other things. I mean, Francisco disagrees with me. He thinks Horta is a possession guy, is more than a possession guy because he's very good running with the ball between the lines. Okay, he's not playing, so.
But he doesn't play between the lines. That's the biggest thing. Is that Rui Vitoria has him too low too deep on the field. I've always said here that I think that Horta was a good player to play between the midfield and the defense and between those lines. But that's not what Rui Vitoria plays him.
Yeah, well, Francisco Marcelino's comparing him. He thinks he's like an IMR type player. I
disagree. He is kind of like a guy like that.
Yeah, possession guy, but not as talented offense. I don't know. I don't, but that way.
Anyway, so that's it for this week. Next week, since we don't have a game, we would. I don't know if we're gonna do a Porto preview. We might do a Porto preview next week on the eve of my traveling to Portugal and to be at the Clásico. We'll do a Porto preview. Maybe we could get Steve Santos in and a couple other people to preview the Porto game, and we'll have a podcast for you. We're hoping to have some content that we generate in Portugal. We're out there with everybody, and just keep your eyes on Twitter if you're planning on meeting up with us, because that's probably the only way we're going to be able to communicate with people. So just keep an eye on Twitter so we could set up. We're probably going to get together sometime before the game, and then after the game, there's a bunch of us that are going to go out and eat some febres or whatever. And I think Mo is paying. Anyway,
before you go, there was a Twitter question earlier.
Go ahead.
From Timo, directed at me. I know I popped up, and he was asking who's the. Go ahead, you ask it.
All right. Who's the most annoying podcast fan?
Listener, follower. Yeah. I mean, go ahead, guys. We're gonna put up a poll on the podcast.
I don't think any of our listeners are annoying.
We're gonna put up a poll.
I value every single listener. I don't think they're annoying. I just think they're dedicated. They're passionate about Benfica, and they like to interact with us.
Absolutely agree, 100%. But there is one though.
Come on, man.
I'm joking, man. Come on. There's no brincar de vez en cuando.
Yeah. So that's all I got. George, it was a pleasure having you here. Throw out your
Thank
Twitter.
you very much. And if I get to add one thing, it was a very proud moment for myself and my cousins Neil and Lino, as the Benfica hierarchy. The heavyweights were in Caldas da Rainha, our hometown, if you will, where they were.
You're not gonna cry, are you?
No.
Okay, you look like you're okay.
Inauguraron the new Casa do Benfica there, which I believe is, from what I understand from my dad, is the number 2 ever Casa do Benfica. I guess number 1 was actually in Porto. So it was a very proud moment for us. We wish we could have been there, but it was still nice to see the Vieira and José Augusto and some of those other. Schwartz was there. Beautiful. Anyways, that's it for me.
As long as you keep Schwartz away from the commentary box, you can take him anywhere.
You know what? He was a little bit difficult to understand, but I miss him. I enjoyed listening to him. I don't know who this new guy is, but I don't like him as much.
Let's get Petra Kendrick on that box. I'm sure his Portuguese is a lot better than Schwartz.
His Portuguese is I'm sure it is. Anyways, that's it. From me, negative George on Twitter. Although, let me say one more thing. Sorry, I keep saying one more thing.
Go ahead, man. The floor is yours.
A while back, I tweeted out to my 20-odd followers to put Benfica podcast on Benfica radio. I got 1 retweet or 1 like. Shame on my followers.
Shame
on Benfica podcast for not pushing that forward. Retweet.
When you only got 20 followers, you're not going to get much traction, man.
And 19 of those.
Hey, if those 20.
And 19 of those are fake Neil accounts. Neil.
Listen, if I have 20 of them, 10 are my mom, and the other 10 are listeners. They should have been on.
That's what it is. You got the one retweet from your mom.
There you go.
Your cousin Neil let you down.
He did.
Neil dropping the ball.
All right, everybody. Cristiano, always a pleasure having you here, man. And we'll see you again next week. Yeah, we'll manage to get a pod out next week on Tuesday. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah,
why not on Tuesday?
Not on Tuesday. Guys, don't listen to Alfredo. I'm going to run the show. All right? He's going away. I'm going to run the show. We'll have something out. It'll be announced sometime next week, but not on Tuesday.
No, we'll be on Tuesday. We'll do the Porto preview before I depart for Portugal. Thanks, everybody. Everybody have a good weekend.
Peace.
Forza Benfica.